Have you ever had everything taken from you in a single day? Not by accident, by the people closest to you. This is the story of Joseph, the favorite son of Jacob, the dreamer who saw thrones in his sleep, and the 17-year-old who was thrown into a low stone enclosure by his own brothers, sold to passing traders, and dragged in chains to a foreign land. Most people stop the story at the betrayal. They miss what happens next, because Joseph's life, the entire arc of it, is the clearest picture in the Bible of how God works in the dark. How the worst thing that ever happens to you can become the foundation of the work you were born to do. Let me take you to Canaan, around 1700 BCE. Joseph is 17. His father Jacob loves him more than the others. We know that because the text tells us so, plainly. Jacob gives Joseph a richly woven robe, the kind a prince would wear. The brothers see it. They feel it. They start to hate him. And then Joseph makes it worse. He has dreams. 2 of them. In the first, the brothers' sheaves of grain bow down to his sheaf. In the second, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all bow to him. He tells these dreams to his family, out loud, without filter. Who does that? A 17-year-old who has never been corrected, who has never had to read a room, who genuinely cannot see what his words are doing to the men around him. The brothers fester. Then opportunity arrives. Jacob sends Joseph alone into open country to check on his brothers tending the flocks at Dothan. They see him coming from a long way off, and they decide. First they say, let's end him. Then Reuben, the oldest, persuades them, no, just throw him into this dry, low stone enclosure in the wilderness. He plans to come back later and rescue Joseph. But before Reuben returns, a caravan of Ishmaelite traders appears on the horizon, bound for Egypt. Judah has an idea. Why end him when we can profit? They sell their own brother for 20 pieces of silver. The traders take Joseph south, into Egypt. His brothers tear his beautiful robe, dip it in goat blood, and bring it home to Jacob. Father, they say, we found this. Jacob looks at the stained robe and his world breaks. He weeps for years. But Joseph is not ended. Joseph is in Egypt. Act 2, the slave who became a steward. Joseph is bought by Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard, a high-ranking Egyptian official. And here something strange happens. The text says, the Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered. Even in slavery, even in chains. Potiphar notices. Potiphar promotes him. Within a few years, Joseph is running the entire household. Every account, every servant, every grain of wheat in Potiphar's estate passes through Joseph's hands. He is no longer the dreamer. He is the administrator. He is learning Egyptian. He is learning hieroglyphics. He is learning the bureaucracy of the most sophisticated empire on earth. None of this would have happened in Canaan. None of this would have happened if his brothers had not betrayed him. Watch what God is doing in the dark. But then, Potiphar's wife notices Joseph. The text says he was well-built and handsome. She propositions him again and again, day after day. He refuses. Not because he doesn't feel it. He says, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He runs from her, leaves his cloak in her hand. She uses the cloak to accuse him of assault. Joseph goes to prison. Do you see how brutal this is? He did the right thing, the honorable thing. And he ends up in a foreign prison with no advocate, no family, no path out. Act 3, the forgotten man. In prison, the same pattern repeats. The Lord was with Joseph. The warden notices. Joseph is given charge of the other prisoners. He becomes the de facto manager of an Egyptian state prison. 2 of Pharaoh's officials end up there, the cupbearer and the baker. They each have troubling dreams. Joseph interprets both. 3 days later, the cupbearer is restored to his position exactly as Joseph predicted. The baker is executed exactly as Joseph predicted. Joseph asks the cupbearer one thing. When you stand before Pharaoh, remember me, mention me. Get me out of here. The cupbearer forgets him. For 2 more years, Joseph sits in that prison cell, forgotten by the man whose life he just saved. This is where the story breaks for most people. 2 more years, after everything, after the dreams, after the rise, after the false accusation, 2 more years in the dark. But God is not finished. Pharaoh dreams. 7 fat cows eaten by 7 thin cows, 7 full ears of grain swallowed by 7 withered ones. None of his magicians can interpret it. The cupbearer suddenly remembers. There was a Hebrew in the prison. He interprets dreams. Joseph is pulled from the cell, shaved, given clean clothes, and brought into the throne room. He is 30 years old. He has been a slave or a prisoner for 13 years, and he stands before the most powerful man on earth and says, "The dream is won. 7 years of abundance are coming, then 7 years of famine that will consume the land. Pharaoh, you must appoint a wise man over Egypt, store grain during the abundance, survive the famine, save your people." Pharaoh looks at him, and he says, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" Pharaoh appoints Joseph second in command of all Egypt, gives him his signet ring, dresses him in fine linen, puts a gold chain around his neck, has him ride in the second chariot, renames him, marries him to an Egyptian noblewoman. In a single morning, Joseph goes from forgotten prisoner to prime minister of the greatest empire of his age. Read that again. The man who was thrown into a low stone enclosure at 17, sold for 20 pieces of silver, falsely accused and forgotten in prison, is now in charge of the food supply of the known world. Act 4. The brothers return. The famine comes. It hits Canaan. Jacob's family is starving. He sends his sons, 10 of them, down to Egypt to buy grain. They bow before the prime minister, faces to the ground. They do not recognize him. He recognizes them. The dream from 22 years ago is happening in real time. Joseph could end them in that moment. He has the authority. He has the army. He has the rage. He does none of it. He tests them. He puts them through a careful sequence designed to find out if they have changed, if they will protect their youngest brother Benjamin, if they have grown into different men. They pass. They protect Benjamin with their lives. Judah, the brother who proposed selling Joseph in the first place, offers himself as a slave so that Benjamin can go home to their father. That is when Joseph breaks. He sends his servants out of the room. He weeps so loudly the Egyptians outside hear him, and he says to his terrified brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" They cannot answer. They are too afraid. He says, "Come close. Do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God." Act 5. The reframe that changes everything. When Jacob dies years later, the brothers panic again. They think Joseph has been waiting to take revenge. He has not. He says to them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." That sentence, that single sentence, is the entire point of the Joseph story. The pit was real. The slavery was real. The prison was real. The 13 years of forgotten suffering were real. And God was working through every one of them. Not to punish Joseph, to position him. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you is the thing that placed you exactly where you needed to be? What if the betrayal that broke you was the door through which your purpose walked in? Joseph lives to see 4 generations of his children. He dies at 110 years old, surrounded by family, knowing that he saved his entire family line and the future nation of Israel from starvation. The arc of his life is the arc of grace, from the pit to the palace, from slavery to authority, from forgotten to indispensable, and every step of it, God was there, even when it looked like he was not. Comment Joseph below if you want the full series on Bible characters who turned their lowest moment into their calling. We are going deep into the stories of Esther, David, Daniel, and Ruth. Subscribe, hit the bell. The next video is already loaded.